Welcome to another episode of OG55 Mr. I'm here with Mr. Michael Webba. Today we are talking about smoking in the parks. Is this something that they should bring back or should they leave it out of the parks? We have a member picked topic today and we're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. I got Mr. Webba with me today on OG55. Let's get it. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. Today, we are doing another member-picked topic. Like I said, if you are a member here on OG55, every now and then, every couple weeks, we're going to reach out to our members and have them submit a topic idea for a future video. So if you submit as a member a topic, we will make an entire video based on your topic. This is only for members, but today we have a fantastic topic from a member. But before we dive in, Mr. Webba, thank you for joining today. How can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely, OG. Thank you so much for having me on. This is this idea from the OG crew was a very good idea. So big thumbs up. Anyways, you can find me Mr. Webba on Twitter. Not as much anymore because I'm not really active on there. But Mr. Webba at webslinger760, and then on Threads and Instagram, Mr. Webba at Cobweb91.
There it is. At Cobweb91. There he is, Mr. Webba. All right, here we go. Member RickNick7431 submitted this question for a topic. It's a great question. Should Disney allow smoking and vaping back in their theme parks? Mr. Webba, what are your thoughts on this, man? Should Disney go back to this? You know, a lot of people smoke. I think more people probably now vape. But is this something that you think that they should bring back, or is it kind of good riddance in your opinion?
This is gonna sound really weird coming from me because I don't smoke, but I know a lot of people that do, including vape. My wife is one of the people who does vape. I think that they should bring back a section for it, right? Because I think before in the little area by Big Thunder Mountain, I don't think that was a good area at all for that type of smoking area because it was just right there in the pathway next to all the other guests. If you're gonna have a smoking section, it should be sectioned off somewhere else where it's just smokers and it's not really interacting with the regular guests who don't want to inhale any of that. Because I understand that, right? I don't want people having secondhand smoke. So I think they should, if they were to bring it back, which in my opinion they should, for if you want to be all inclusive, people do smoke. A lot of people smoke, a lot of people vape. And I think that they should have a separate section in the back or to the side somewhere where it's its own secluded area to where regular guests aren't impacted by it.
That's a great perspective actually about because a lot of people equate smoking with alcohol, right? I've seen this argument before. Well, they allow alcohol. Why don't they allow smoking? It's like, well, the argument I think for alcohol is different than smoking. And I think the argument for alcohol is essentially as long as the person isn't getting like completely toasted, like wasted and like harassing other people and getting obnoxious publicly and making other people feel uncomfortable. Alcohol doesn't really affect anyone. If I sit at a table or a bar and I have a few drinks, that doesn't affect anyone else but me, essentially. My body, my liver, my health, Smoking, though, like you mentioned, it does affect other people around you. So when you allow smoking in the parks, Disney has to be very cognizant of where they place these smoking sections. So that's actually one of my biggest concerns too, Ebba, is I wouldn't necessarily mind them bringing it back as long as these smoking areas are in an area where it's not people aren't walking by and getting giant whiffs of it. I don't want obviously you have families and stuff. You don't want them to walk through a cloud of smoke. So if there's a way Disney, and it is a challenge, I completely understand that. I'm aware of that. It is a challenge, but if Disney can find an area, like one area in the park or even in like downtown Disney or something where it's very, very secluded and there's not a whole lot of the smoke kind of like, bleeding out into the walkways and what have you, or it's interfering with people who don't smoke, I would be open to that. And like you said, Webba, it's a great observation when you said, Disney right now especially is trying to be more inclusive, right? Mm-hmm. And they should be more inclusive. I think inclusivity is a beautiful thing, but smoking is something people do. Vaping is something people do. So, I mean, you have to acknowledge that is an element of our society and people do that, right? So I think that's an interesting point, So now here's the other thing too, that I think is kind of interesting when it comes to like the social norms. I'm kind of curious of your opinion on this, Eva. It's funny how things change over the decades, over the generations, right? So when Walt opened Disneyland in 1955, you could smoke in the park. It was no big deal. Walt was a heavy smoker. It's well known, obviously. And he also drank alcohol, but you couldn't drink alcohol at his park, but you could smoke. Fast forward to 2024, now basically 2025, and you can drink like crazy at the park, but you can't smoke. It's interesting how the social norms sort of change over the years and how the parks have sort of adapted to that. What are your thoughts on that? I'm kind of curious.
I'm actually really glad that you brought that up because there was a point I was going to make, but then you really had a nice segue into that. And it is that, the US's kind of culture around drinking and smoking, right? And how people can perceive one as bad and the other one's not so bad, right? But it kind of touches upon your point onto the effects of alcohol. You kind of just really harming yourself really versus the smoking can have the secondhand effect.
Right.
Although I agree, I also like to point out that alcohol can have maybe a third hand effect, which is maybe there's no direct effect on anybody else. But if you have too much and someone who can't handle their alcohol, and alcohol is known to kind of, change people and make some people aggressive, that's also really not good in my opinion either.
Oh no, I agree with you. And that's where the cast members have to step in, the bartenders and what have you, where you have to cut people off if they're getting sloshed, if they're getting just completely trashed. Cast members have to cap that off. You can't let someone just get totally hammered at Disney, and when it's starting to affect other people, right? Like for me personally, like. I stopped drinking back in May, right? So it's been a while now. I haven't drank in a long time. The stuff that you guys see on camera, these are actually non-alcoholic beers. But
IPA.
yeah, IPA. There we go with the California poppies on it. You can't get more West Coast than that, bro. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
Monster Hunter beat hope.
But and I even got one with I've got the 101 on this one, bro.
There you go.
Monster Hunter beat hope.
But I haven't drank since May, but even when I did drink and I would get like tipsy or even drunk, I'm like my personality, I just become like way more social, way more fun. I'm cracking jokes. I'm having a good time. I'm dancing. I was never one of those like mean, angry drunks. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, it's like if I get like drunk, I'm not really like disrupting. I just get funnier, basically.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But and a lot of people are like that, right? But some people are not like that. Some people get really, really mean, really angry, kind of violent. And when you're serving alcohol at these parks where you have families, Disney has to take that very seriously. And I think they do for the most part. I think they do a very good job at it. I mean, hats off to all the cast members. I don't see a lot of drunken issues in regard to that at Disney. I really don't. I know there's gonna be people in the comments that are gonna tell me, but OG, I was there like, in October and I saw this, out, and the other. It's like, I get it. There's always gonna be like an exception or a thing you saw at one point. But for the most part, I think the cast members do a really, really good job at sort of maintaining the order, so to speak, right? But it is a concern though, because you don't know how a individual is going to handle that alcohol. And sometimes, you know, everyone's different. Like, you know, so sometimes 1 or 2 drinks might just be enough for somebody that gets them totally sloshed. And now they're a huge problem in the parks. So Disney cast members, those bartenders and what have you, those waiters, the wait staff, all that, they need to be very observant and kind of scope all that out. Because you're right, but that could be a major problem.
Well, and to going off that is thinking about if you're with a group, right? I'm sure. Sorry, guys, my nose itches. I'm sure like this has happened to people where, you know, a group of buddies or a group of friends, let's say 5 or 6 in a group, they're at DCA, you know, they're drinking and stuff, and all it takes is one person to mess it up for the entire group, and they all get kicked out.
Y'all get kicked out.
You know, at least with the smoking, you know, as long as you're abiding by the alcohol too, but you know, the smoking doesn't change your behavior. Of course, I do know some smokers who like they need that cigarette like every like half an hour or so, and they get like really antsy and kind of agitated if they don't get like that hit of nicotine.
Yeah.
But they don't become like, but like their whole personality doesn't really change much when you know, if you know, if they smoke, right? Again, my issue is don't have a smoking area that is like right where it was in Big Thunder Mountain, right off the side where you have regular guests going through there. Because one, you know, I mean, for the Disney family image, it's just not a really good image to have, you know, people just vaping, like, because that's more of like an adult thing, right? And you have kids and stuff there. Like, I don't think that's a really good image for Disney, like, to really represent. But at the same time, you have to be inclusive. So I think that if they could have like a spot, a dedicated smoking area, like towards the back or off to the side, that's more close to like where like a back of house area, not in back of house, but like by a back of house where all that kind of smoke and stuff would kind of go off that way, and they can kind of like filter it out and stuff like that. I think that'd be really cool. I do, however, don't think you should be able to smoke weed in the park. That's another thing. Because there's been a couple of times where, and here's the thing, I'm not a weed hater, right? California, it's, you know, it's legal here. Cool, smoke it, whatever. But I think there should still be some rules to abide by, right? Because with cigarettes and vaping, you're not altering your mind. With weed, you know, it is a mind-numbing, mind-altering, a little bit of a substance. And, you know, I don't really want like to smell the smell of weed throughout the park. Again, if you had it back there, you probably wouldn't. But yeah, I don't think you should be able to have like smoking weed in the park, you know, just so you're not walking around high the entire time. That's just me personally. That's a personal thing. I think cigarettes and vaping would be fine for the parks in that regard. But for weed, nah, I'll walk into like the Space Mountain restroom and it just reeks of like someone just hit a blunt in there or something, you know?
Well, the problem with weed as well is that it's even if you have a smoking area, right?
Right.
That's away from the general public. Within that smoking area, you have people who don't smoke weed.
Yeah.
So you have a person that, let's just say Disney allowed it. Well, now you have the weed smoker in with the regular smokers. Well, what if the regular smokers don't want to get a contact high? So now do you need to create another special area for the weed smokers? Right?
Right. Well,
yeah.
Well, that case, OG, then I would probably make the argument because also, what about this? People who have medical issued licensing or approval for weed, right? Because they need it for some type of chronic pain or illness that they have, and marijuana prescribed by a doctor actually does help. You think maybe Disney could have like in like the first aid area or like a special security area where they can go and actually get that done for them while they're at the park. That way they're not smoking in the park. They're not, you know, no one else getting a second contact high, but they're still able to alleviate their medical symptoms with the weed in a safe environment.
Right. Or maybe there's an option. And again, I'm not an expert on any of that stuff. Believe me, I don't smoke. I don't, you know, but
yeah, same here.
Yeah. I don't do it. I tried it one time, dude, like over a decade ago or even longer than that. But yeah, about a decade ago. And I literally forgot how to walk. I like my brain like didn't work and I freaking hated it. I absolutely hated it. My friend Danny was like cracking up. I'm like, dude, I literally forgot how to walk. It's just
Oh,
crazy.
that's wild.
Yeah,
Dude.
it's wild, bro. But yeah, I never did it again. But here's the thing, like, you know, for people with medical stuff, right? Like there's cancer patients and people that need the medical marijuana. Maybe there's an option for them to do some sort of edible thing that they can that will give them the same sort of treatment that maybe Disney can offer in their first aid or something like that, you know?
That's true.
Yeah. So I again, I don't know like the ins and outs of that stuff. I don't know if like the edible would have the same effect as the smoking. I don't really know, but I just, you know, look, I'm just putting it out there. You know, maybe that would be a second option if the contact high is an issue, you know? So, but it's interesting. The smoking, this is why I think probably Disney doesn't have the smoking. I think this is why Disney threw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, with the smoking, because it kind of does open a little bit of a can of worms for them. Because once you allow the vaping, once you allow the cigarettes, and once you allow that stuff, it opens the door for the other things like the marijuana, where it's like, well, what do you do about them now? And where do you put them? Because if you put them in with the mix, well, other people in that smoking area might not want to get that high. You know, so it's a hard thing to kind of juggle. And I think Disney probably looked at that and went, you know what, not worth it. We'll just across the board say no. You know, is probably what happened. It's wild, but I can see now though, like you and I just talking about it and the logistics of it all and all the different people that have different things that they use, how it could be a problem, how you can't like commingle everybody because some people don't want certain things, you know?
It's okay. So let's say on the fact, right? Disney doesn't want it inside the park. Okay. What I don't understand is that when they ban smoking across the board at Disneyland, why is it banned out? Also, why is it banned outside the park in like the Esplanade? I don't understand why like they haven't set up like, or there isn't like a little spot where if you can't smoke inside the park, okay, go outside the gate, you know, you can come back in, you know, go hit your cigarette or vape or whatever out in this area, out in the Esplanade or somewhere there, and then come back in. Like, why do you have to leave the gate, walk all the way out to like the exit, pretty much, come back through security? Like, that's just a huge pain in the ass.
Right. You gotta go there by Harbor Boulevard.
Yeah, I'm sorry. In my opinion, that's dumb. Like, you should, at least, like, you know, when you walk out of the gates that are closest to like the lockers, and there's like that little picnic area.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. All the times I've been to Disneyland, and I've been a lot, guys, I rarely ever see people use that area. Oh. Why not make that the little smoking area?
You know, that's an option.
Because it's right next to the park. It's by the bathroom. It's by the locker. And then it's also close to the gates.
And it's surrounded by a bunch of trees and hedges and stuff, which keep it all in, you know.
Right. So if you don't want it, and again, if you don't want it in the park, okay, but at least put it somewhere there where it's still convenient for the guest. You're still being somewhat inclusive because they're on your property, but you're still allowing the smoke to happen, just not inside the park.
Right.
And they have access to the restrooms, the lockers, and then the gate entrance right there.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad idea. That is a pretty decent spot for it because there's never, like you said, there's never anyone in there. I don't ever see anyone.
Maybe like one person, or something hanging out there. I mean, most of your guests are going to eat inside the park, or they're going to eat in downtown Disney, or go to McDonald's. Like,
yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, it's wild. It's wild. Yeah, I would actually. Like my ex-girlfriend and I, she was Vietnamese, and she got me into these Vietnamese sandwiches. They're called banh mi, and I highly recommend. If anyone at home has not had a banh mi, you should definitely do it. I mean, you can get chicken, pork, whatever you want, but they're amazing. It's Vietnamese like ingredients, but they use like a French baguette. Okay, but it's really, really good because Vietnam has a lot of French influence and what have you. But long story short, so we love those sandwiches. So we would put a few of those in our backpack from like Lee's Sandwich, and like we put a few of those in my backpack, and we'd eat them later. Even doing that all the time with her, like, because we just love those sandwiches, we never utilized that little area. Like we never were like, oh, let's eat over there. Like we just would eat in the park on the bench or something, you know?
Right, exactly. And then also on top of that, now with the new Toontown like grassy areas where kids can play and stuff, I see people utilizing that all the time, you know, eating food, letting the kids run around. You know, you bring your own food, you can eat over there.
Good point.
You know, so it's like that whole little like bench, like seating area, that picnic area outside, use that for the smoking area because you're still on property. You're by the gates. It's convenient by the bathrooms, by the lockers. If you want to put your personal stuff in there, hell, even if you know, want to put your cigarettes in there and your vape in there or something, and then when you feel like you need a hit, you walk out the gates, go right, go there, take it out, get your hit, go back in the park.
Yeah.
You know, easy peasy, orangey squeezy, okay?
Exactly. Make it look easy. Dang.
There you go.
We're bringing that one back. That's an oldie but goodie.
Oh, it is.
Oldie but goodie. One more time. I like how she, you know, it's like perfect, absolutely perfect. But and the other thing too, Eva, that I think you bring up a great point with the picnic area that we're talking about, that they should convert to a smoking area. You're right. Toontown, you have all that picnic space now. You can set up shop over there for eating, right? I mean, that's why they have a picnic area. They encourage families to do things like that.
Yeah.
But even at downtown Disney over there by Din Tai Fung and that stage where we had our OG55 meetup last August, dude, all that fake grass as far as the eye could see. I mean, you could set up shop there. You could have a few banh mi. You could have snacks, candy, whatever you want right there. You know, you don't really need that little nook right there by the lockers anymore for picnicky stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And actually, you know what? Speaking of smoking too. Well, I mean, obviously we're on the topic, but
yeah.
But there's been a few times where I have, you know, been walking like through Frontierland or kind of like that area where you're out of sight from like a lot of, you know, cast members, where all of a sudden I see like vape smoke coming up or something, or someone smoking, right? I remember one time I saw, this was like a few months back, someone on Facebook, like in one of the Facebook Magic Key groups, I was like slamming this person because I guess this person was like smoking with like a cigarette in New Orleans. And this person posted a picture of them on Facebook. And it's like, guys, smoking isn't allowed. Put out that cigarette, right? And like, why isn't the cast members doing anything about this? And it's like, you're always going to have people, OG, who are just not going to follow the rules. So if they're not going to follow the rules, then again, be inclusive and accommodate that kind of human behavior that was already there in the first place and put it somewhere where it's not going to affect the regular everyday guests.
Right. If
That's
people are going to be, because you kind of, when you ban it, right, completely, you kind of almost indirectly push people into doing shit like that.
Yeah.
Because now they don't have a lot of options. So now, okay, I'll sneak it in line. And that's horrible. Do not do that. But but that's what that does, because what's that person in New Orleans going to have to do in order to do that? Well, they're going to have to walk all the way out the park, go all the way outside of security, smoke, and then walk all the way back. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And if you look at pretty much every other theme park, I mean, hell, even Legoland, okay? Legoland has a dedicated smoking section.
And that's a kid park. I mean, for all intents and purposes, that is a kid park. It's geared towards young kids.
It is. But they recognize that adults do adult behavior things. They smoke. And there's some restaurants, including the hotels, that serve alcohol. So they know that people on vacation or visiting, you know, people are going to drink. Some people are smokers. Like, they're trying to include everybody in, you know, be inclusive, basically, right? Which what I was alluding to, you know. So, and you know, I'm pretty sure there's a smoking area at Six Flags. I don't know if is there one at Universal?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I never have to use them, and I don't really know anybody that smokes. So, I mean, my buddy Sean smokes, but I haven't been to the parks or anything with him in a long time. So
I could have sworn I could have sworn I've seen more people at Universal just casually just smoking or vaping at Universal and not really hiding it, but nothing ever really happens.
Maybe either Universal is okay with it, or
Yeah.
I mean within reason, because there is California law too. Like in California, you can't smoke like inside. So
Right.
yeah, so obviously they couldn't even do that at Universal, even if Universal was okay with it. But outside and stuff, Universal might just be like, we're just going to go with California law. So if it's legal to smoke outside, then you can do it outside. You just can't do it indoors or whatever.
Right. And also they're a more like edgier park, more adult oriented. So they'd probably be like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, that's interesting. I never really I never thought about that, because like I said, I only have one friend, my buddy Sean, who I've known forever, dude. Shout out to Sean. He smokes, and I mean, he's the only guy I know, only person I know that still does.
Yeah. There's a lot of people I know who vape or smoke or not, right? So, like these people, especially with cigarettes or even vaping, right? It's a habit, it's an addiction they have, and when they go, and here's the thing, they still want to go to the parks and have a good time, right? But then they're also not going to be able to hit their cigarette or vape for the entire day. Now, people could say, "Oh, well, that's not my problem. That's their problem." Yes, but this is still this is a habit addiction that these people have, guys, and just banning it across the board, you're pretty much kind of inadvertently just saying we don't want these people at our park.
Yeah, and you got to accommodate them in some way. You know what I'm saying? Even if you don't agree with smoking, you still have to accommodate them to some degree. So
Right, and as long as the smoking area is within a reasonable, like secluded section and a section off, or it's like secluded away from the general like public who doesn't want to smoke or get the secondhand smoke, I think it's fine. So I say I vote to bring it back in that capacity.
yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair because you're voting to bring it back, but you're voting to bring it back with a lot of conditions. Basically, is what you're in a very controlled kind of environment.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Well,
So that's it.
interesting conversation from let me see, I think it was from Rick Nick. Let me just double check on that. Yep, it was from Rick Nick 7431. Rick Nick, I want to thank you so much. Ebony and the whole OG crew, thanks you for being a member. Great topic, very, very interesting stuff. Everybody at home, comment down below with all your opinions on smoking at the parks. Alcohol too. If you want to throw in alcohol at the parks, you can definitely do that as well. We would love to hear your opinions. Mr. Webba, thank you for joining. If you let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. OG55, thank you again for having me on. This was fantastic. And also, I'm very curious to see how this video is going to do. I see this being a very controversial topic, but which is great.
Yeah, we love that. We love that, so it should be very interesting. Very, very interesting debate in the comment section for sure,
Absolutely. But you can find me, Mr. Webba, on Twitter at Webslinger760 and on Threads and Instagram at Cobweb91.
There we go. So I'm still battling this cold, but I do feel better. So I think by the end of the week, I'll pretty much be 100% again. So we'll see. We're getting there.
Oh, yeah.
Slowly but surely, dude. Slowly but surely.
There we go. There we go.
There we go. But thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55. Comment down below with all your thoughts on smoking in the parks. We would love to hear from you. And speaking of smoking hot, here is here is the queen.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.